Tom Carroll, of course, a multiple world champion, well-known face of Australian sport. And just in terms of those overlapping personal narratives, he's got a link to South Africa, of course. He was instrumental in the sporting boycott against apartheid South Africa, which might have cost him, in fact, quite dearly in competitive terms. And Ross Clarke-Jones, who won the prestigious Eddie Aikau Memorial at Waimea Bay in Hawaii 12 years ago. I don't know very much about surfing. I once stood up for about 3 seconds on a surfboard where someone was trying to teach me. That's about it, and I love the novel Tim Winton's Breath, and more recently Malcolm Knox did a wonderful novel called The Life. One is about the rites of passage using surfing as a metaphor, and the other was about the professional circuit, including some of those terrifying waves in Hawaii. So maybe these stories also inform the narratives of our next two speakers. Will you welcome, please, Tom Carroll and Ross Clarke-Jones.
It's a big risk. It's a huge risk. No one's been there. We don't know where we're going.
It could be a really good discovery, but it could be a complete myth.
This one, Tom. Go, 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 go!
Ross and Tom have been, two of my biggest heroes growing up.
I think Tom's the best ever at pipeline.
Ross, there he is. He's taking off in massive waves. No one could take their eyes off him.
Communication kind of works like this.
No, go, 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 go! No, no, what? Ah!
In a sense, we have a good marriage.
Oh! Oh! Hang on!
Our holy grail is to find new spots that have never been surfed.
Yeah, he's spiking now.
We're just going out of the unknown.
You're right.
I'm still looking for that wave that's going to say, that's the biggest wave you're ever going to ride.
This is not fun and games. This is a very, very serious operation in a very, very dangerous environment.
I think Tom's psyche's changed on this whole thing. He sort of spent a lot closer time to his 3 girls. It became a girl. Almost.
I'm turning 50 and I'm looking at life a lot different.
It's too windy. There's going to be 50 knots of wind.
It's definitely going to be big.
It's a mutant of a wave.
It's really, really scary.
80 k's out to sea. If someone gets hurt...
Yeah, this one, Tom. Go, 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 go! Oh, he's going over the falls! No! Where is the helicopter? Can you see Tom? He's still under.
With all this knowledge, the fact is there's a gap there, and that's Mother Nature.
Surfing big waves is not about how ripped your abs are or how much you bench press. I think it's about your nerve.
I think they've both lived a few lives. They've lost a few lives. If they've got 9 when they started, they're down to 1 or 2 each, mate.
Hello.
Hi.
I just want to thank Dai Lee, was it, for a wonderful talk. I mean, it was quite disturbing for me after our selfish pastime compared.
Yeah,
I want to start an orphanage. I mean, I really do.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Really, really. I mean, when I was a kid and my brother teased me and said, "You're adopted." And I freaked. I packed my little bag and I had like 20 pairs of socks. I remember walking out, I was about 3 years old. Mum goes, "Where are you going?" "I'm off to find my real parents."
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, but it was disturbing. I was like, and that's for real, those kids.
Bought up some stuff for me. I lost my mum at 7 years of age. So I can actually, I brought a tear to my eye just to know that, I mean, I had enough trouble as it is, and I knew where I come from. But yeah, thanks.
And I'm part Asian too, by the way.
Look at him.
I actually am. My mother was from Borneo. She's a headhunter.
That's why what we got here, Jordan Hoofer from Bold Talk said, get some structure, boys. You know, like, can you send me some structure?
So we can't start with structure now.
We can't start with structure.
Can you write something out? No. Can you get some structure? No.
He's a wild man from Borneo. You know, it comes to the surface, and it's right there right now. Yeah, it's right to the surface.
Yeah, they're nomadic humans. They cut heads off and run to the next spot, which sort of segs into what we've been doing. Sort of ride waves, you know, catch waves and leave. But I've been on stage with Tom for the last couple of years. I've been living my life with him for like 25 years, surfing around the world, and I've been on stage just giving him shit constantly. And I've just read his book. Really? He's just come out with a book. And there's a lot of stuff I didn't know about you. And I want to publicly say I'm so sorry. Really. I love you. Really.
Thank you.
It's all awesome. In fun and I make fun of you, but it's such a noble thing you've done to come out with. Really, Tom.
Thanks, Ross.
I was always the good guy. He was the drug addict, but I was always the church-going good guy.
With horns.
No, really.
With horns.
It's fantastic and a great book.
Yeah, I won't go on about the book really, but and I was going to actually read from it, but I'll let you guys maybe if you ever want to pick up a copy of this book, and it's really myself and my brother. My brother's a journalist, a surf journalist, a very, very good one. Our father was a journalist, Vic Carroll. He was a editor of the Sydney Morning Herald and the Financial Review. Worked for Fairfax for many years, but my brother took after him, and I thought I'd really like to come out and talk about the journey of what happens to an athlete after all that focus and determination and self-focus and just obsession about the sport and thing that we love, just to get the best you possibly can do, and how it works as a tool to develop you, and at the back end can subtly turn into a weapon against you, and that's drug addiction at its finest at that point. Being introduced to drugs when I was fairly young, I kind of knew the feeling, and it's funny, a lot of stuff's revealed in the pathology of that sort of stuff in here too. But I'll go on. I won't go on about the book anymore. We'll go on.
It's like he's trying to sell it. But you told me you weren't doing it for money, and I really believe in you in doing that. It's a noble thing you've done.
The idea is to actually
help people.
Hopefully, maybe the way my mind was open to the idea of recovery, like almost 7 years ago, was. That there was just this little window open of opportunity, and I dove through it, and hopefully there's someone out there who's suffering that we can get that message out. But it has to be done just through direct sharing, just like Kylie just shared her from her heart, and that's what this book's about. But there's a lot of big wave riding. We just love that stuff, don't we, Ross?
Better than drugs, apparently.
Way better.
I mean, that's what we've come together in Hawaii, not around drugs, about riding big waves. Yeah. And I mean, it's a drug in itself.
Yep. Adrenaline-based environment. You know how we're sort of oxygen? You know, this basically on a planet, we're oxygen-based environment. I'd say you're more of a testosterone-based environment, Ross, and I'm more of a
still got some hair.
Hey, take it easy. Actually, the high.
No.
They reckon that if you lose hair, you got more testosterone. Isn't that it?
Is it?
You got that one? No.
He's got heaps of it.
Good on you. Give me some. I try to make out like I got hair, right? But
yeah, this whole thing about fear, though. This is probably a question. I mean, people look at what we do and go, they're either clinically insane or they get inspired by it, or they shrink and go, oh, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I mean, they get all weird, or they get really like, I want to go surfing. That's the reactions we've had from so many different cultures, which is, we thought, the Australian humour, it's a bit larrikinish, or it wouldn't work. I went to Moscow, Ukraine, Germany, California, which we thought we'd get a hard time, but they loved it.
That's the movie we're talking about.
Yeah, the Storm Surfers. But yeah, so the thing about fear is the constant question. They go, you know, how do you overcome that fear? Do you actually enjoy it, or I mean, are people like who surfs here? Do we have no one?
Surfers at all?
One guy. Awesome. One surfer. That's good. That's a challenge.
That's nice. Yeah.
Who's scared of things? I mean, who gets scared? You're not normal if you don't get scared. Okay.
Yeah. Now we're getting honest.
Yeah, okay. Who's really scared of no, who's scared of the ocean? I mean, who's scared of big waves and
Okay.
who thinks you could? Do you think you could overcome riding something like overcome fear like that? Do you think you could do it? Eh? Because I want you to come up. Would you mind coming up? I want to do a little experiment.
Come on.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's hear. Come on, clap her on. Here we go. Here we go. Here she comes. You leave the shoes off, actually. You know.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right. Here we go. This is how you. Apparently.
This is
our formula. I mean,
There's a
have you got
little
those
formula
medics
here.
on board? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're scared of these waves, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Blindfold.
Blindfold. Yeah. Now just stay with us here.
Blindfold.
Just stay with us.
You can't reach up that high.
I can't get there.
I'll get him a chair. Hang on.
Take it easy, huh? I'm really sensitive about that. Okay. Does that get you? Blindfold? Okay. Oops. Sorry about your hair.
Uh-oh.
Can you see?
Just want to make sure I don't get your hair here.
Is our talk done yet?
Okay. How's that? You okay?
Come on, don't get too gentle. Come on, here we go.
Hey, while I'm having this blindfold, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When did you start surfing?
I was 11 years old, and I'm 47. Tom's 62 now. How old are you? Was it? No. Sorry, what was your name?
Talia.
Talia.
Hey, Talia.
Talia. Look, just come around here. So when you're walking around, you're just going, you don't know where you are, right?
Don't trip me over,
No,
please.
so you don't know where you are. Can you see? Now listen, look. If I asked you, you observed what you know of where you were, right? What you know of where you were standing before, right? What did you know? Just don't move. Stop moving. You'll hurt yourself.
Stay with us.
Right? What you knew of before was like a concrete floor, right? So if you knew you were there, you wouldn't just fall backwards, would you?
No.
But what if you put in your head, and I guaranteed you have a soft landing, and you're convinced, and your boyfriend or whoever you want's waiting there for you to hold you and massage you and...
Wait a second, how are you going to convince me?
You know, I'm guarantee you, put this in your mind. You know, once you convince yourself, you know, wouldn't you do it if you're convinced in your mind? Like, really. But I know I'm not very convincing, but really, listen to me. I am your conscience speaking. Everything will be 100% okay. I guarantee you, just fall backwards and you'd be fine. You'd go for it, wouldn't you? If it's guaranteed. And
yes,
are you going to...
possibly.
$1 million at the end of the road.
$1 million,
$1
yeah, I'd
million.
do it.
Just fall backwards, wouldn't you?
Should I do that right
Wouldn't
now?
you? Would you?
Do you have $1
yes,
million?
I guarantee you. No, but I guarantee you'll be safe and you'll enjoy it. I guarantee it. Yes, I'm guaranteeing you. This is your conscience. Well, see, she was still hesitant, but
She's still hesitant.
she still was hesitating. She wasn't really convinced. But I mean, if your conscience convinces you it's going to be okay, and she actually broke her back. But are you okay?
She did it.
Are you all right?
See?
But you're
okay.
scared.
Lucky I've got some cushioning.
Are you scared? Are you scared? Were you scared?
Well, I'm shaking.
Yeah.
I think that's more from being on stage in front of all you people.
Okay.
Yeah, you did really well.
Did that work for you? So are you ready to go out there and just go surfing?
No. I got.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Is if you can, like, what you don't know is what fear's based on. If you're prepared and you're just convinced, like when we take off in these waves, when we convince ourselves it's going to be fine. These waves are as big as this ceiling and could possibly rip us apart, but we don't think that way. We think we're going to, the end of the tunnel's beautiful, it's enjoy it. You convince yourself.
But you get off on the rush, right? That's why you do it.
Yeah, and
Well,
did you get
I'm
off on that?
addicted to the
You're going to go away and go, that was awesome.
Yeah. But you made it. Now you're out the other side, right?
What about that surfing movie where that guy dies in that big wave at the end? Didn't you think about
So you
that?
don't think about that.
Yeah.
You erase that completely.
Yeah.
Who? No, really. Who died? You know,
You
statistically,
guys know what I'm talking about?
statistically, surfing is insurable. So
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
it
They
is.
won't insure rock climbing, base jumping, or parachuting because, you know, we've lost 4 people in 20 years or 5 people from surfing big waves.
What about sharks?
Sharks, you've got more
Sharks.
chance of getting hit in the head with a coconut
Yeah.
and dying.
There you go.
No,
I like
heard
that stat.
this morning.
I mean, did you learn that this morning?
learned
Did you?
that this
Where'd you
morning.
get that from?
It was
Not off the internet.
Animal Planet.
I swear.
I think it was Animal
You just don't want to go, swimming in where Reunion Island right now? Yeah. That's a place where you don't want to go swimming. They've actually banned surfing from Reunion Island altogether now.
Really?
Yeah, you cannot go surfing. It's against the law. Wow. So many lives have been lost. But 2 sharks.
See, these are the 2 different
Yeah.
different makeups too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
It takes 2 to tango, right, Ross?
Yeah, but just they took Tom and I to the Institute of Sport in Sydney
Yeah.
to analyse
This is
the
a
way we
beauty.
look at the way we face the fear and so on. But it was more about, it was a diving board. It's probably 30 metres or 30 feet high or whatever it was. And it's the way you approach the board, right?
Yeah, we had a sports psychologist actually run us through, question us, go through all the pre-run and watch us and observe us and take notes, and then ask us questions before and after. So there was 2 entirely different approaches. You know, you can only imagine.
This is Tom. He walks up, he assesses it all. He's like, makes it all. It's all.
It's a
perfect.
10-metre dive.
Mr. Perfect.
dive
He's
platform.
looking it up. He looks at it. He assesses it all, and and he steps off like a Olympic diver who was most perfect fall into the water. That's Tom Carroll, 2 times world champion, as opposed to my approach, which was I just ran and leapt and
then-
missed all the bubbles.
He
And landed straight on my back, and I
slapped his
couldn't
butt.
walk for 3 months. I mean, but that's the different approaches.
Can I, before I head off, can I ask you a few questions now that I have the floor?
Yeah.
Come
You
here. She had the floor a minute ago. Here we go. Get back. Have your seat. Let's put it back.
What in your career, what's like a typical day in the life of you, if you could each take turns? And
Okay.
also, can you quantify how big that wave is that you've ridden? So like how many buildings tall, how many stories or whatever, just so we can get an idea, because I don't know how big it is.
Okay, it's probably some of the biggest waves are almost as high as this ceiling, like on the biggest days, which is about
really?
90 feet. Yeah, it gets
Really?
to about 90, the biggest day. Well, you weren't there.
No,
He was back in Newport.
How
That's
lo-
true. Looks like massive jaws, looks like that, for sure.
How long are you underwater for when
Yeah,
you
maybe.
crash?
Well, I think on a really heavy hold down, it's probably about 45, 50 seconds.
You don't panic?
There's sometimes a little bit of panic. You know, you've got to actually naturally be, your body goes into sort of self-preservation mode. So you're looking for, what we're doing is underneath the water, we open up our eyes to find out where the light's shining, because that's where it's coming down through the whitewater. There's loads and loads of whitewater. I mean, it's so thick. And you're getting thrown around and it's dark underneath there because it just irons out all the light. Any light coming through just doesn't get through. But you can see little bits of light, and that's where you want to go for, because that actually becomes clearer water and more still water. So you just go for those veins of light, and you're really going for them.
But that would be after you're like tumbling around and you don't even know which way's up,
And
right?
then you might get a little confused in that point. But I tell you what, for us, right, this isn't just this doesn't just happen. You don't walk straight into that. This comes over, I've surfing for over 45 years. So this has happened to me incrementally over a long period of time. So I've gotten used to the pounding, gotten used to and understood myself, and understood that the actual wave passes. You know, there's another wave maybe on top of that. That's the long hold downs, when there's 2 waves or maybe, you know, more after that pass over you, and that's when your oxygen runs real low. But we're used to that feeling of being really, the body being depleted, being tumble-turned and so on. So we're not stressed out so much. So the average person would have died of shock, you know, or the body would have gone into shock, would have lost its ability to actually hold oxygen in the blood too. So, yeah, there's.
I guess that's why they call it extreme, right?
Yeah, that's what he reckons. But in the movie Storm Surfers, right? I'm giving you a copy. This is the last one we've got, and but in there's a scene where it's my description of what happens underwater, and it segs to me into a nightclub scene where I'm delusional, and I'm in this nightclub just getting bounced around, but I'm taking myself somewhere else from under the water. So you can enjoy what's going on down there and observe all, you know, the lights and the beautiful girls, and so you can spend, it feels like hours under there. So you're not worrying about the water that could actually rip you limb from limb, or you could drown, or you just forget about that. And then time passes, and it's to stop you panicking. If you don't want to panic, because you'll use oxygen as Tom said.
So what's a day in your life? You wake up in the morning, you get up, at what time?
Oh, I'm up before light, usually. I'm on light, just as the sun's coming up or just before it.
That's when the best waves are in the morning?
Just not naturally up. But I like getting to bed early, having a good sleep, and I love getting up at that quiet time in the morning early, and probably having to meditate, and which is usually part of my routine, and then getting out in the ocean as quickly as possible, really, or just taking care of business. I've got daughters. I've got a young 10-year-old. I've got the older ones are 19 and 21. They're kind of on their way, but my 10-year-old, she sort of hangs out with me a few days a week, and she's like action girl. So I'm usually doing some action girl stuff with her before school. Back in the day when I was competing, competition, when I was at height of training, away from competition, I'd be doing, say, somewhere between 4 to 6 hours of surfing a day. 5 days a week, I'd give myself a couple of days just to sort of enjoy, and I'd turn it into work. And on top of that, there'd be an hour and a half of workout, cross-training involved. And that would be 5 days as well. And I'd be surfing waves, specific places which I didn't particularly like. So, because quite often competition is on a day when you don't like it. So the discipline around that was to sort of go and get into and practice kind of conditions that are challenging, whether it be 2 feet, 10 feet, and understand the ocean as it is. Because as surfers, especially in high-end competition, we could be presented with anything on any given day, even if it's pipeline. We have to be ready to ride any kind of water. And that's what we do as surfers, is we have to learn and we get to understand water movement. And so the more time we spend with her, the more time we understand her. And I call it a her because she's so unpredictable.
And I'm going to leave, but I'm just going to ask you one more question, sorry. About the South Africa Apartheid thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Thank you for having me. I'm going to sit down.
Hey, thanks for coming.
No, thanks for coming.
Thanks for being so brave.
The doctors over there.
South Africa for me. I'd been travelling to South Africa to compete for 3 years, from 81, 82 and 83. No, actually, sorry, I have to go back. 4 years, 81, 82, 83 and 84. And I just got my second world title, and we were actually blacklisted for going to South Africa by the UN. And as a world champion and getting a lot of publicity at the time, I thought I'd been really struggling with going to South Africa and watching what was going on over there, and getting a direct experience with how people were treating each other. And I was really impacted by that. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that I was, as a world champion, I was going over there and actually viewed by the media and the whole sporting world, really, but mostly in Australia, especially in my hometown, is actually supporting that. And I thought, at that point in 1985, when I made the decision, was no better time than to actually make a difference or have some sort of influence with that second world title and that public profile that I'd actually make a stand. And it was quite an easy decision to make, but the follow-through, media and so on, the attention I wasn't really ready for. So I probably would have done it a different way now. But in hindsight, I've never looked back. It's been a blessing in disguise, and at the time it was a struggle sort of dealing with the onslaught and actually the backlash within myself around knowing that how prevalent it is here in our own country, the idea that we're separated from another race, so or anyone is separated, and how we treat each other. So that came on board, and I struggled with that for a few months after that. But greatest relief came when I got to meet Nelson Mandela via Bob Hawke, and Bob got to introduce me to him at a dinner, and I wasn't really making the stand for him in particular, but I got to meet up with him in the early 90s, and he said a big thank you to me, and that was an amazing feeling, and say that I was in Robben Island at the time, and I needed all the help I could get from the outside world, and that was an incredible feeling. Thanks.
Awesome. I think we've got a few minutes left. Do we got anyone else who wants to ask a really controversial question? Or
anyone from the floor before I put a few of my
sorry,
questions.
Anton, that's your job. Tom asked me to, he begged to me, he says, please don't talk over the top of me. And I said,
You've done a wonderful job.
If you don't rave on. That's fair enough.
It turns out the novel I was referring to, Malcolm Knox, is a good friend and a very good journalist. It's about a 50-something pro surfer who almost gets pulled under by drugs. Based on a real-life character, I was trying to figure out who it was. Who do you think it is, Tom?
There you go. Yeah. Well, there it is. It's like, the story of addiction is really common. It's like it's not. I'm not alone in the story at all. That was a really nice thing to find out, that there was actually support and recovery available, because drug addiction in particular. I mean, there's so many other kinds of addiction, and it can manifest in all these different ways in our life. But in particular, the drug that my drug of choice that hit my pathology just perfect was the crystal methamphetamine, and I hit that in 2002. And once I tasted that, I was just like many others who taste it, especially for this day and age, because we want to achieve more, we want to be more, we want to work longer hours, and it's just the perfect antidote to that at the first. And then she twists in against you and takes your life, basically takes your life, and it actually put me in particular, like, I hear this story over and over again in the 12-step fellowships that I go and do, religiously, but I go into my little hole and just make out that this is the best place to be. By myself, using drugs, completely spun out, and in a complete load of fear about the outside world, and isolating myself in that zone, and everyone else in the world can just bugger off just as long as I can use. And that feeling of isolation was just horrendous. And as a father, I think at first it was my children and wanting to be there for my children that I was motivated to jump through that window of opportunity. Because this weird cycle of addiction happens where you just can't stand yourself that much. You're just so over this whole situation. The drugs aren't working anymore, and then there's this window of opportunity, and you kind of either dive through and get recovery, or you dive through and hang on, like white knuckle it for a while until it just all becomes too much and you've got to use again. So thank God in 2006, in December 2006, I was able to dive through that window, and today I haven't had to use since then. So that's a blessing, and I don't know how that happens. Yeah.
But given this weirdly egocentric world of pro surfing, if you had to do it over again, how would it be different in terms of the drugs?
How would it be different?
Would you just not do drugs at all? Or, I mean, is it possible to kind of keep it at arm's length?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we, today I can't see this, actually within the sport and what I notice of it with all the guys at the top now. I was introduced to drugs when I was quite young in the 70s. The 70s is and it goes through in the book, talks about the influences as I grew up, and those sort of things are really important in our life, that either make us vulnerable or, harden up to the use of drugs or whatever. You're exposed to certain things at times when you have no power over it. But somehow sort of trick you up down the track. But as far as the sport's concerned, when I was on my way up, I wasn't using drugs. I was very, very clear about being the best athlete I possibly could be. And, as I talked about early in this talk, was that I looked towards, just bettering myself, and the obsession and egocentric behaviour that goes around that actually turns back. But today, what I notice with all the great young kids today, they get such great support. And in the sport of surfing today, I don't see anyone at this point. I think it's one of the cleanest. It's the cleanest sport around, to be honest. From what I understand, from football to all cycling and all this sort of stuff that goes on, to be like that much faster than each other, it just doesn't seem to equate in the wave riding side. Yeah,
I don't think there's a performance-enhancing drug for surfing. No, really.
I certainly didn't go with doing ice. I tell you. Like, oh shit, we're gonna catch a wave. Oh shit, oh there's another wave. Oh. That's makes you completely insane. I tried to surf. I'll be out there for 10 minutes. Oh, there's no waves out here.
I'm addicted to goat's cheese, actually. I have it every day. I try not to have it. And
you have to have it.
I just go, fuck it, I'm not going to have it today. I'm going to have it. And then, I mean, I've heard you speak a lot about addiction, but is it
That's an addiction.
A goat's cheese addict?
Nah, you can have a hot bath every day of the week and then don't have a hot bath that next day. Like 7 days on the 8th day, don't have the hot bath and see how you feel. You're going to want to have a hot bath.
So everyone's an addict in some form.
I think it's the most broad-minded entity I've ever come across. It covers everyone from the little old lady doctor shopping to the CEO who's just got everything to live for. Or the best sports person, the most, you know what I mean? Got everything to live for, beautiful kids, they're all in private schools, he's driving around, his wife's beautiful, he's got all this stuff going, and he's chopping up coke on the dashboard before he gets to the boardroom. I mean, that stuff is happening right now, I guarantee. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who we are.
It's good to have you back.
Thanks. Thanks,
really good.
Yeah. Can you please thank Tom Carroll and Ross Clarke-Jones?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.